So I wanted to talk about just a little bit about my dealings with anxiety. It started maybe 14, 15 years ago, and it was a very stressful time. Although I didn't realize it, I just thought, oh, okay, normal stress. It was my first year of homeschooling, I believe, or one of the first years early on. It started in 2001 when I started feeling differently. I remember very first feelings was the tingling hands and the tingling feet. I do remember that. I remember feeling it when we were getting the paperwork done. I remember just feeling stressed or just feeling frazzled and having to stand up and take a walk because I could just feel, I felt different, like the warm flush came over me. I remember it again, it was a stressful situation. We were going down to my mother-in-law's house. I don't know, I was feeling stressed, I didn't want to go. And halfway down there, I think we were in Escondido, I started getting the tingly hands and the feet and the warm flush again. And I really thought that I was having a heart attack. I remember saying, I feel different, I feel different. And we were on the freeway. I remember the exact spot we were in. I remember the exit. I remember telling him just to pull over. He pulled off the freeway, and I guess he thought that he could make me feel better by maybe getting me a drink. So he pulled into a Starbucks. And I remember just being totally aware of everything. I remember going to use the restroom in there. I didn't even want to go to the restroom alone. I think I took Lexi with me. I felt like everyone was staring at me. And I don't even remember like making a scene or anything, but that's just how I felt. I felt like everyone could just see it on my face. Steve ended up taking me to the emergency room. They checked me out and couldn't find anything wrong. Blood pressure was fine. My heart rate was fine. And that's when they said, we think you're having an anxiety attack. That's the first time I had ever heard of that. They were just saying, just take some Benadryl because that would calm me or relax me. And so we did that. But my body was like on high alert. If anyone has ever had a major panic attack or anxiety attack, I've read where, it's gone in 10 minutes or it's gone in 20 minutes. I've had some that, yes, they're gone that quickly, but they happen throughout the day. After a really heavy anxiety attack or panic attack, it takes my body at least 3 or 4 days to actually feel whatever normal feels like for me now. Because it happened in the car, I couldn't drive. I felt like I couldn't drive because I kept thinking, well, what if it happens and I'm driving and I have the kids with me? I couldn't even look at the car without getting nervous. My mom and dad used to come up every week, once a week. I remember my mom needing something, and I said, I'll just go. We lived in, at that time we lived further away from the mall. It's not far at all, but when you have an anxiety episode and one of your limitations is driving, something down the block can feel a million miles away. I didn't have to go on the freeway. That's how not far it was, but I went by myself, and when I was by myself, I remember feeling that feeling again, the warm flush, the tingly hands and the feet, and I remember just being aware of everything around me, every face, every stoplight, just totally knowing every single thing my body was feeling. For me, it's a very scary place when I'm going through it, and especially early on and not knowing what it was, not knowing what I know now, not knowing at that time how to control it or what to do to calm myself down. I don't even think I got what I needed to get just because I wanted to just get home. And if you suffer from anxiety, you probably know the term your safe place, or you probably feel like you have a safe place. And my safe place was not only in my house, but it was in my bed, in my room. And so that's where I just wanted to get. I remember running every red light, and I remember praying, Lord, just get me to the next light. And I get to that next light, and it's like, okay, just get me to the next light again. It seemed like there was a million red lights. I think I went through all of them. I got home. Steve worked in San Diego, at that time. I remember telling Justin just he needed to call. I remember getting these, I would shake, kind of like little tremors, and like you would feel if you get chills. And I remember having that, and it would be like an uncontrollable feeling. And so I remember always drawing a hot bath and just sitting in it, because it would just, I felt like that would calm me down. I mean, I know now that that helped calm me down. There's other things I would put in the bath now to help with that, and I'll go into that later. That's what I went through in those first years, not knowing what it was, not knowing even how to explain it, feeling all alone. I wanted to find someone that felt exactly like I did, that went through exactly what I did, where their limitation was driving. And what I've learned now after meeting so many people is that anxiety can come out in so many different ways. Everyone's limitations are different. One thing you need to know is that if someone is having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, they may look normal on the outside, but inside is just chaos, and their mind is racing, and their heart is pounding like it's going to come out of their chest. Sometimes I know that when people are going through an anxiety attack, sometimes they don't like to talk. Sometimes they want to talk about it. Sometimes they just want to be hugged. Sometimes they don't want to be touched. I know that when Steve will start praying for me, like that's immediately what he'll always say. It's like, okay, let's pray. I can't even concentrate on the prayer because I'm just concentrating on everything I'm feeling. And I think that the Lord does that, where he'll put people around you that, because your mind is racing and you can't concentrate on anything except what you're feeling, that he does bring someone in front of you that will pray for you. Because I know that even though that should be the first thing that I should do, it's the hardest thing for me to do, because I am just so focused on what I'm feeling and everything I'm going through. I praise the Lord that he always puts someone, if it's not my husband, it's someone else. It's really nice when you have a friend that you know that deals with anxiety as well, that can understand your feelings, that won't have to ask you 1,000 or 1,000,000 questions, that just understand, is relatable, and can just either just sit and listen with you, or just sit quietly with you, or pray with you. Steve have to tell people like, oh, she just wants to be alone right now, or she just can't talk right now. People who don't go through anxiety attacks don't understand that their intentions are good. They want to help, but they don't understand that part of being in your safe place is maybe being alone, or just not sharing. And at that early on in those years, I didn't want to share, because I couldn't even explain it myself. I didn't know how to explain it to other people. I didn't want people to think I was crazy, so I shared with hardly anyone except Steve and my sister and people close to me. So this was early on, before my thyroid cancer. There's always an outlet. God's going to always put people in front of you. There's support groups out there. The technology back then wasn't as good as it is now, and so there was not a lot of internet support like I can get now. I'm with a lot of support groups now, online or on Facebook, or just all these sites that I can go to now, that I can at least make myself feel better. Sometimes make myself feel worse. So watch what you also look at on the internet, because especially if I'm in the middle of an attack. I know now that I don't even look things up. I always tell Steve, okay, look at this symptom, and if it's bad, don't tell me. And so even like doctor's office calls, if they call and they want to tell me about a result, I always say, you can't listen to that. Will you call my husband and tell him? So that's kind of the start of my anxiety journey, as I grew more knowledge, and as I became diagnosed with thyroid cancer. My symptoms became worse. Now but I was encouraged, because now there was a reason for part of my anxiety, or all of my anxiety. I just had to get to the root of it. And it's taken me 14 years, and I'm still finding out more each day, but each day it's a step closer, and each day I feel better about what I've learned or what I've found out. It's taken a lot of baby steps, and a lot of learning, a lot of looking at what I'm feeling, and just putting all of those things together. It's like a big puzzle, and it's not complete. It may never be complete, but it's just such a victory when I see a connection. It just confirms in me, it's okay, you're not crazy. I've allowed it to take away things that I love to do because of the second guessing of myself. Slowly over these years, I've been able to get a lot of things back. And one of the things, as I said, one of my limitations was driving, and one of the things that I've let it take away from me is just being able to drive alone. And when I think of all the things that I used to do, I used to have to bring Justin down to San Diego, and it was just me and Lexi. And I remember having to drive Justin down, because that's where his dad lived. And I would just do that, and then Lexi and I would be driving back alone. That just sounds like so typical and something that you guys can do every day. And that's something that I did every day, every week. I used to have a commute in San Diego. I used to drive in traffic on the freeways, but now it's just something that I wish I could do because I can't. In these 14 years, there's probably not even a handful of times, maybe twice, where I've driven alone. And, and then I find that that's how much I used to love driving. I envy my friends who can do that. They can drive wherever they want. They do, and I know that sounds so selfish, but when you feel like it's been taken away from you, that's just something that I feel that I would like to get back. When I'm on a good day, I can drive anywhere with anyone except myself. On a bad day, I can hardly get out because I'm already thinking that, oh gosh, that's a million miles away. There are some times where I've had to bring my youngest daughter to dance, and it is not far by any means. But when I'm not feeling good, when my anxiety has gotten the best of me, it feels like it is a million miles away. And so, and I don't want to bother anybody. So there's been some days where she won't go to dance if I can't, or if the older kids can't take her, or if they can't come with me to take her. And then I feel guilty about that because, I want my kids to be able to enjoy anything that they want to do, and I never want my anxiety to hinder them from doing it. And I'm sure that it has. Justin has helped me so much in taking them. I mean, even if it's just somewhere close, he'll come with me. Lexi as well. I can drive if they're with me. I'm fine. I just want someone with me. If it's someone else, totally not even in our family, I could drive anywhere, even if I'm not feeling well. I remember there was a time where I became very agoraphobic, that I couldn't even leave the house. And I didn't know if I would ever be able to get out of the house again. So I remember not being able to drive, not even being able to look at the car. And I remember going to a therapist, and he was telling me that, each week my homework was to get out, go into the car myself, and just drive around the block. And I couldn't do it. It was like how many months of therapy, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Not even just in our cul-de-sac. I just couldn't do it because my mind was giving me thoughts like, well, you can't do it. And they were so irrational, but I couldn't do it. After a while, I remember wanting to go on a women's retreat with our church. I was determined to drive. And I remember being able to drive, and I went, and it was such a victory. And Emily was with me, and I don't know if she knew just how much, I think she knew how much I wanted to drive. I could not have done it alone, and she was with me. She kept me distracted the whole drive. I was fine going up the mountain and coming down, and just the fact that I was able to be there. This was after my thyroid cancer, so it was the first really big outing, and I'm so grateful to Emily for that. I don't think she knows or remembers. She probably doesn't even remember that, but that was such a huge victory for me, and I'm so forever grateful for her for allowing me to drive. And those are the little victories you have to remember, because they're huge to you. But even in that, there's some times where instead of rejoicing and saying, see, I could totally do that, I could totally do that, there's been times where I'm like, I will never do that again. And see, I want to get past that. I want to see the victories. And that's what I encourage everyone, is that rejoice in the little victories, no matter how small you may see it, but it's huge. Share those victories with the ones you love. Thank them for being part of that victory, because those are the things you need to remember if you should have another attack. You need to remember the Lord was with me then. He'll continue to be with me. He will put people in front of me that I need right at that moment. You can say, I am going to do that again. I will do that again. I'm not going to let it hold me back. So there'll be more of that and less of, I will never do that again. We have to slowly work towards more of the rejoicing in the small victories, because you're going to have so many more of those. And sometimes you just need to even if it's just something little, like me just going by myself to the grocery store, just driving there by myself, I need to realize that's not little, that's huge for me, because that's a desire of my heart, that, and it sounds so small and maybe so selfish, but the Lord knows my heart, and He knows what I am capable of. I just wish that I knew what I was capable of, because He knows that I can do it through Him. I just wish I knew that I could. So those are things that I'm still working on for myself as well. But that's my story. Those are the symptoms I felt. There's a whole list of other symptoms, and just because someone is not, maybe it doesn't come out in the symptoms wise the same as me, it doesn't mean that they're not having a full-blown anxiety attack. We may look totally normal on the outside, but inside it's a race. It feels like a race for our lives. It's just chaos. It's this, and but all over your mind, your heart, everything on the inside. This one, I just wanted to introduce you to my story, what I've gone through, the little victories that I've made. Next week, maybe I'll talk about supplements, essential oils, Epsom salt baths, which are just so awesome, and something that I would suggest that you do. But I'll go into more detail next week. So this week was just more of an introduction on my bout with anxiety and my victory over it. And I hope you'll join me as I truly overcome it. And I'm hoping that comes in the near future, because I'm like done with it. But I've learned so much about myself through it, and there's still so much to learn. But I just wanted to leave you with encouragement. I've allowed my anxiety to take things away from me, but it will never define me, and your anxiety will never define you. And I am defined by Jesus Christ, and I'm always hopeful and encouraged that in my weakness, that He is strong. He'll be my strength. And so I just encourage you not to think that this has you bound for life, because it doesn't. There's things that you can do that will help you, get through each day, and know that even each day, as an anxiety sufferer, each day is a victory. Each morning that you wake up is a victory. And so it's just those little things. The little things we take for granted are things to be joyful for every day. So I pray that today you're having a good day. Today is one of your good days. If it's not, be encouraged that tomorrow's a new day. And so I'll see you back next week, and we'll talk about more about our struggle, but our victory over anxiety. Thank you.